Hi, I'm Tom Beebekauser with Wetland Restoration and Training. I'm really happy to be with you today. The number one way that wetlands were drained was to divert the source of water for the wetland. And the way you divert water is that you dig a ditch and you move a stream. Streams were moved over to the sides of mountains or hills, and streams were channeled down the center of the valleys. We're going to be looking at how streams were moved and the effects on wetlands in this video.
Historically, people were not able to raise crops in the valleys because of the level ground, and the level ground was all wetlands. There were streams in the valleys, but the streams looked more like wetlands. The streams didn't have the deep channels and the high banks that we see today. The water in the streams flowed across the floor of the valley in a sheet-like pattern, saturating all the soil. The ground was saturated, and the valleys were too wet for raising crops. I was introduced to the topic of how streams were moved to create farmland by Earl J. Osborne over 35 years ago. Earl was a heavy equipment operator, and he worked to help farmers turn wetlands into farm fields, and he helped them make places for their homes and barns to be built by changing wetlands into dry ground. Earl J. Osborne routinely moved and channeled streams at the request of farmers that were his customers. These photos clearly show the difference between a ditch and a natural stream. The natural stream is wide and it has low banks. Wet meadow wetlands are found on the floodplain of the stream because the soil in the valley is saturated. Water flows over the surface of the ground in a sheet-like pattern. Beaver would build dams across the natural streams. This ditch stream is straight and it has high vertical banks. This photo shows where two ditches were dug to drain a wetland in New York. This was over 100 years ago. The way the ditches meet at right angles is a clear sign that this wetland was drained for farming. You'll find very little information about moving streams in all of the books that were written about how to drain wetlands and turn them into farmlands. I've talked to many seniors over the years who have farmed areas, and they remember their fathers and their grandfathers moving the streams to dry the wetland areas. This photo shows the start of a ditch that was dug to drain a wetland. The natural stream is in the background. Notice how it's a shallow wetland basin, while the ditch that was dug is narrow and it's a deep channel. This drawing shows a profile view of a valley and a natural stream. The water in the stream is shallow and it spreads across the surface of the ground in a sheet-like pattern. The elevation of the groundwater is near the surface and there are many wetland basins. Here's a front cross-section of a natural stream. The stream is wide, the banks are low, and the water flows across the valley in a sheet-like pattern. A ditch was dug in the center of the valley to create a farm field from the wetland. The ditch removed the water from the wetlands and it lowered the elevation of groundwater. Here is where the ditch that was dug to drain wetlands intercepted a gravel layer. The ditch is capable of draining wetlands over a mile away. This aerial photo shows the valley where I live in eastern Kentucky. Most of the valley was once wetland. The stream flowing the valley is named Braton Branch. A deep ditch was dug down the center of the valley for Braton Branch over 60 years ago. The moved stream is marked in blue on this aerial photo. Here's how Braton Branch appears today.
The stream of Braton Branch has caused enormous erosion since it was moved and straightened 60 years ago. Originally, the stream was up higher than my head, and it flowed across the surface of the ground in a sheet-like pattern, saturating soil and creating all these wetlands and depressions. But since the stream was straightened, it has cut down over 6 feet and now is acting like a ditch. The bottom of the stream here is full of gravel, and I can see gravel near the bottom of the banks here. So what that means is that this stream is a ditch and it's pulling water from the surrounding ground on each side. When you dig a ditch like this and it intercepts a gravel layer, it can remove water up to a mile away on either side, draining all the wetlands on the floodplain. The pine tree is ready to fall into the creek. Why? The stream was moved and the erosion is causing the stream to go deeper and deeper into the ground, and that is causing the banks to collapse. So I have found that with moved streams, you can have trees that are 200 years old, and the shear stresses are so great that they will expose the roots. In a matter of years, the tree falls into the creek.
Eagle Lake is a constructed reservoir on the campus of Morehead State University in eastern Kentucky. This aerial photo shows a small farm field that was created years ago by digging a ditch along the base of the mountain to move a stream that goes into Eagle Lake. The stream once flowed in a sheet-like pattern down the center of the valley. The location of the moved stream at Eagle Lake is marked in blue. Ditches were also dug to drain wetlands for farming. One of these ditches is marked in red. Let's take a look at the moved Eagle Lake stream on the ground.
I'm standing in the ditch that was dug to move the stream so that this valley could be farmed. And when they moved the stream, it triggered head cuts to form. And here is a significant head cut that's been moving up valley. And what this is doing is causing a deepening and a widening of the channel. Now let's see how high this head cut is. This head cut is almost 4 feet high. It's being temporarily stopped by the roots of these large trees. In a couple years, those roots will decompose because they're exposed to the air, and the head cut will move up valley. And what it'll do is it'll cause hundreds of tons of soil to wash downstream and fill Eagle Lake.
The Fox Valley in eastern Kentucky has some of the best farmland in Fleming County. Fox Creek was straightened and moved to the center of the valley, and this was done to dry wetlands for farming.
You're looking at Fox Creek in Fleming County, Kentucky. Fox Creek was straightened many years ago. It was straightened to create farmland from wetlands that once occurred in this valley. And once Fox Creek was straightened, it started to erode, and we say it was down cutting. And what this did is it created these vertical banks on either side that were eroding, and now the trees that are growing along the banks are falling into the creek, and the creek is becoming wider as it cuts deeper into the ground. Now, in looking at the farm fields on either side, they're beautiful farm fields, probably the best farmland in all of Fleming County. And we know that wetlands were drained because if we look at the banks of the creek, we'll see these pipes sticking out. One of the main reasons that creeks were straightened and channeled was so they could serve as an outlet for buried drainage systems. We are looking at the outlet to a buried drainage system, and the drain pipes were installed to drain a large wetland area. Now, the pipe you're looking at is just an extension to the end of the drainage system, and it consists of several solid pieces of PVC pipe. And these were installed to protect the end of the drainage system from damage during a flood. Now, when they installed this pipe, there was probably only about a foot sticking out of the creek bank. But over the years, there's been a lot of erosion occurring. The creek was straightened, so it is down cutting and it is widening, and more of the pipe is exposed each year.
Streams have been moved across North America to drain wetlands for farming. It is almost impossible to find a stream that has not been moved or channeled to create agricultural land or a place for building a house or a barn. The moved streams act like ditches to drain the water from wetlands over the entire valley.
It is almost impossible to find a stream that has not been moved and channeled for draining wetlands in North America. This is Tom Biebighauser. I invite you to share this video, to like it, and to subscribe, and to visit my website where you'll learn so much more about wetlands. Thank you.